Most of the significant traits that 3s and 4s have in common can be tied to their place within the heart triad center. Now, if you haven't heard of the triad centers before, then I would highly recommend watching my overview on the triad itself, either before you continue with this video or just after you finish it, because it's really going to help you conceptualize the way these types and all types navigate life. But for now, it's just important to know that all heart types are primarily influenced by their feelings, and specifically the way other people make them feel about themselves. So emotions, relationships, and identity are all constantly driving this couple's interactions with not only each other, but with the outside world in general. Now, another trait that all heart types have in common is this tenuous relationship to their past, as it tends to carry a fair amount of shame or regret. However, 4s tend to wallow in or revisit their past on a regular basis in order to find meaning in it. Whereas 3s just want to move forward because focusing on future goals feels way better than thinking about their past mistakes. Essentially, 3s and 4s are a bit like Germany and France, in that they're right next to each other, but one is way more overtly emotional and willing to romanticize their past, whereas the other is like, hey, things have been pretty good since the late 80s, so can we just focus on the fact that we make the best cars, beers, and sausages in the world? Am I right? All right, speaking of geographical connections, another place that 3s and 4s meet is at the sweet little Belgian waffle that is the Type 2 helper. Although when 4s go to 2, it's typically in one of their less than sweet moments, as that's their movement of disintegration. 3s, on the other hand, can have a 2 wing, which makes them even more upbeat, socially savvy, and a bit more family-oriented than career-oriented, generally speaking. Now, the way this connection plays out as a shared trait is often in a mutual desire to feel important in the lives of others, which can either come from a place of inspirational empathy or insecure attachment. But more on that later. All right, the last and most obvious point of connection for 3s and 4s is the fact that they're each other's wing. So 3s can have a 4 wing, aka the professional, and 4s can have a 3 wing, aka the aristocrat. Now, both of these subtypes are incredibly complex, as they both feel a desire to move outward in search of a more performative role, as well as a desire to move inward in search of a more emotionally authentic identity. This often produces a pairing with a rather elegant style, or at least the ability to stand out from the crowd, as they bring a mixture of social ambition and creative elitism that makes them very concerned with the quality of their connections, creations, and/or material possessions. At the end of the day, though, and no matter what their wing is, 3s and 4s create wonderfully nuanced relationships with each other, as they bond over their pursuit of a meaningful platform through which they can manifest their greatest gifts. And ultimately, they remind us that success and self-expression aren't at odds, but rather two sides of the same heart-shaped coin. All right, before I start writing poetry, let's shift gears and talk about a few things that 3s find uniquely attractive about 4s and vice versa. Thank you so much for watching You've Got a Type. If you enjoyed that clip, then why not watch the full video it was taken from right here? And if you really enjoyed it, then maybe hit those like and subscribe buttons before you go. No pressure though. Just happy you're here.